first let's take a look at our brew process. What we do here is we start with hot water, and then we add crushed malted barley in our mash tun to let it steep. As you know, this process is the conversion process of converting the starches in the malted barley to fermentable sugars. We use pre-ground crushed Briess malt. That way we don't have to mill it ourselves. Now you can save a lot of money by milling it yourselves, however you have the upfront cost of paying for a mill. We will mash in for about an hour to an hour and a half for this conversion process. At the end of that period of time, we will take hot water from a tank of hot water, which is called a hot liquor tank, and we will run it through a large shower head, which is called sparging. The purpose of that is to rinse the grain, to try to pull all the fermentable sugars out of the grain, and then we will flow that to the brew kettle. As it goes to the brew kettle, it will first go into a vessel called a gran. What this is what we use is we use a 15-gallon keg where we take the top off, and this allows us to inspect the wort before it moves on to the brew kettle. Once in the brew kettle, we will boil the wort for an hour and a half. During the boil, we will add hops for bittering, and then at the end of the boil, we'll add hops for flavor. This whole process, like I said, takes about an hour and a half, at the end of which time we will whirlpool the kettle. What that will do is that will take all the hops and trub, which are protein material, to the center so that we will not pull this out into our fermenter. It will go to the center, drop to the bottom, and then we will pull the clear wort out of the brew kettle. We will pump it through a heat exchanger to cool the wort to a fermentable temperature of 70 degrees. It's very important. From the heat exchanger, it then moves through an oxygenating stone, which will pump in pure oxygen, which is important for the yeast to survive, then into the fermenter, where we have already pitched a certain amount of yeast slurry. Once in the fermenter, the fermentation process takes about 3 to 4 days at 70 degrees. During the fermentation process, as you know, the yeast eats the sugar as a byproduct, giving off CO2 and alcohol. At the end of 4 days, we take the now green beer, we pump it into another tank, which is our conditioning tank. Here we will let it age. Also in the conditioning tank is where we'll add finings, which will help bind to any loose proteins or yeast that are still in suspension, clarifying the beer. Depending on the recipe, we may also add hops for dry hopping, for hop aroma. At the end of a week, 7-day period in the conditioning tank, we will then move over the now finished beer into a serving vessel. At this time, we will top off any of the carbonation using a carbonating stone, bring up the CO2 volume in there. And at that point, it's ready to tap. It goes right to our taps after that. And that's a simple system.